You ever just come across a fantasy debut that gets you so excited? Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I'm Andrew, and today I've got another book review for you. But before we get into that book review, make sure you're liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. Also, make sure you're checking that description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as link to all my social media and information about my Patreon. And today guys, today's book review is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. This is one I've been super excited to talk about, and I really had to kind of sit with my thoughts and think about it because it's such a strong fantasy debut, if you want to, just get a little bit of tone of where this is going. I first heard about this book mainly because of the cover. And the cover was saw this orange tree with this big old sword stuck in the ground and these petals falling, which is just, I love when, a scene is taken straight from the book. Or the imagery is from the book. And also it's one of those ones that's got a gorgeous naked hardcover, so you can look forward to that as well. I initially heard about this book not only from the cover, but also my buddy Dominish and my buddy Alan dropped reviews for this, and then the author hopped into my Discord and was just like, hey, I've got a book coming out. And we started chatting. We get along like a house on fire. Tiago is an amazing guy. And so I was like, yeah, I'm really interested to read your book. And of course, I was nervous to read the book because I'm like, I really get on with this author. I hope I like his book. Spoiler alert, I loved his book. This is something truly special. It's epic, it's intricate, it's got politics, it's got religion, it's got different factions, it's got nations, it's got orders, it's got princes, it's got so much just packed into this story. One of the things I love, though, is kind of the number of POVs that we kind of follow. Because usually we either do a single, double, or multi-POV story. And this is a multi-POV story, but it's only 3 POVs. And I think that works out really well. It's a great number because this book isn't incredibly long for as good as it is. He was able to pack a lot in here. Hold on. 445 pages. That's substandard for page count when it comes to fantasy these days. Usually it's 500 plus. So to pack 3 POVs and do each POV well in 445 pages is awesome. One thing I will say is I do have one critique with this story, which I reacted to it. And so the thing is I was reading the book and I got through the prologue, I got through the first chapter, and then it shifts POV, which was fine. That POV is so different, it was like getting hit with culture shock. And so I actually reached out to the author and I was like, hey, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to convey? He's like, trust me, it is meant to be shocking like that. This is very much done intentionally. I am a shower, not an explainer. So he's like, I like to show my story rather than just do exposition dumps. And with that in mind, I then proceeded through the rest of the story and fell in love. So as a debut, if I'm going to give it a star rating, it's a 4.5 out of 5, mainly because I did have that initial jarring incident. The rest of the story, though, was just chef's kiss. The character arcs, which we've got 3 of them. We've got Adrian. Adrian is a prince of the domain. And essentially, sub-prologue, his brother has died. And the way the domain works is they follow this particular religion. And this religion does not believe in death. They have their blessed. If you are blessed, you are granted this incredibly long life and sickness. But if you die and your blessing has been revoked, you're basically insta-forgotten. You were not mourned, you are burned. Unless you were some special person, then your body is preserved and stuck away into what is called, to await, what is it? I believe it's the promised day or something like that, where basically this god will return and everybody who has been preserved in this sap of a great tree is then resurrected and comes back to life. And so the way that this works is there's just tons of political maneuvering of who gets preserved, who gets forgotten, things of that nature. And it's really, really interesting because on the back of the book, or actually on the back of the dust jacket, is something that's really, really cool. It says, how far would you go to resurrect someone you love? The next session is, how long could you run from your past? And then the third section is, would you change who you are to show you belong? And what's really cool about this is this applies to kind of the core of each of the three POVs. And the first one applies to Adrian because he is dealing with loss, he is dealing with betrayal, he is dealing with feeling unaccepted by his father, who is the king of this realm. And so it's really, really interesting getting to see what he goes through. The second POV is Lynn, and Lynn I think is my favorite. Lynn is what is called a sentinel. Now essentially, the way that the domain works is they don't kill people and they don't celebrate death. But if somebody does need to be killed, they send in a sentinel, which is Lynn. And Lynn essentially is damaged by this. She is running from her past because she has dealt with something that was called the madness, where it just gets into people, they lose their mind, they go into killing frenzies, and she had to put down people that she cared about, and this has left her incredibly scarred. And so when we meet Lynn, we're kind of dealing with her penance, and it's just so interesting. She's very much carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders because she feels like nobody understands what she's going through, even her fellow Sentinels. What's really cool about the Sentinels is each Sentinel is bonded with a griffin. Now, usually when it comes to fantasy, I love kind of dragon magic or something like that. And griffin magic is just so cool. Actually, the Iron Crown by Ellen McCree has griffins in it as well. And the more I think about it, the more I like griffins as fantasy creatures. It's just so fantastic. Essentially, what Lynn can do is, because she's got this bond with this griffin, is she can take emotions and she can send it towards her griffin, and this allows her to harness like super speed, super strength. She can do like superhero landings, things of that nature, and basically be unscarred. But if she does this too much, then her mind can shatter. And there's a term for it that I don't quite remember. It's been about a week since I read this amazing fantasy debut, and I've forgotten some terms, but it's so fascinating watching her character arc. The third POV is Nasha. I believe I'm saying this correctly, and she is of the Clanlands. She is what is called a sloper, but she has the slopers are kind of like the derelicts, and they're like the lesser society of the Clanlands. But then you can go through something called a proving, that then gets you elevated within the society. You get respect. You can become a hunter. There's varying levels of hunter that is denoted by the certain amount of scars or lines that you have on your arm. She is a 3-scar or a 3-line hunter, and so she's got a modicum of respect. However, there is also something of not quite right in the Clanlands, and Nasha's slowly discovering this, where she gets embroiled within the politics of these lands, and she has to try and fight her way out. Basically, her main problem is, like we said on the back, is would you change who you are? And a lot of her people, the slopers, feel like, oh, you think you're better than us? Because I think they're the roans. They become a roan if they're no longer a sloper, and I think she becomes a roan. And then the slopers are like, oh, you think you're better than us? You're not one of us anymore. And so there's just so much going on within this book. It's very intricate, and you do have to pay attention, or you could potentially miss a twist and a turn. Like I said, this is only 445 pages of sheer fantasy delight. I don't really have a whole lot of critiques other than that quick culture change from the domain to the Clanlands. And it can be quite jarring. I felt like I was reading a different book, because like the domain are like, they've got grand cities and they're polished and they're nobles, and then you kind of just shift to the domain and they're like hunters, they're tribal, and they're almost like barbarians, and you're just like, what is going on? How are these two in the same world? What do these people have to do with their story? How does this all come together? And the way that the threads are slowly being pulled together in this series is absolutely fantastic. In fact, I think the name of the series, I'm going to butcher this, Tiago, I am so sorry. The Ashes of Averin. I believe I've said that correctly. You can correct me in the comments down below if I have gotten that incorrect. But, guys, this is supposed to, I believe, be a quartet of books. So this is book 1. However, if you're one of those ones that's like, oh, it's only the first book, it won't come out super fast, Tiago does plan, I believe, to have them all out by next year. Whether or not that happens, he does have like outlines for these books, and he told me that he is planning to get these out within the next year. So hopefully by the end of 2023, this will be a finished quartet of pure self-pub fantasy goodness. Guys, I have nothing but good things to say about this. Cool characters, cool magic, interesting politics, religious fanatics, orders, just everything that I thought that would drive me nuts about this book ended up making me love it even more. And guys, I can't tell you enough. Please pick this one up. It is an absolute banger. That said, guys, that's really all I've got to say here on A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. Please check this one out. Until next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.